Which deals will be made at the NFL trade deadline? Welcome, football fans. I'm Mitch, and these are my official NFL trade deadline predictions. Which players will be on the move? What will your team actually do? And which rumors will come true? Gronk, spike the like button and let me know in the comments your predictions. And let me know your opinion on my predictions. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Which are accurate and which are totally outlandish? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's go, jabronis. Let's break down my predictions for the trade deadline. Of course, guys, being realistic, most of these won't actually happen, but it's fun to discuss them. So let's begin with the big name, the player that everybody's wondering, Mitch, where's Trey Hendrickson gonna go? Is Trey Hendrickson actually gonna get traded? Well, I'm here to tell you if he does get traded, I believe there's one team that makes the most sense. Because if Trey Hendrickson gets traded, you have to understand that he is purely a rental. Because he wants to get paid in the spring/the summer. He wants to make a lot of money next year. He is on a one-year deal. And it makes total sense for the Cincinnati Bengals to move him right now because they're not making the playoffs. He's getting older. They're probably not going to extend him this offseason. They've had friction all year, last 2-3 years, it feels like. He's been on one-year deal after one-year deal, giving this team budget signings year after year after year to hang on to the aspiration of a Super Bowl after they lost to the Rams, right? He's going to go somewhere else. I mean, who wants to play for Cincinnati right now? Really, truly, like honestly, especially a defensive player that's in his 30s. So for me, my prediction is going to be the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions make the most sense. They have everyone intact and healthy in their prime. Aiden Hutchinson is not hurt this year, right? Campbell is broken out at linebacker. Brian Branch got that 1-week suspension. Okay. Kirby Joseph will be just fine, right? Alim McNeil is back. And you look at the offense. You got Goff probably at the end of his prime. You have Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Penei Sewell. You have all these players that are in their prime that have rather been paid or are about to be paid, and you need to take advantage of the window that you have. Last year, you missed out on an opportunity. As the number 1 seed, you missed out on that opportunity with Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator. That was really the window that you had last year and the year previous, where you lost to the Niners in the NFC Championship. But if there was ever a year for the Lions to take advantage and make a massive swing at a big name, it's this year. Because who knows how much longer this roster will be together. This is, to me, maybe the most talented team in the league. Some people want them to trade for a corner. DJ Reed should be back, near the end of the regular season, if not sooner than that. I'm not exactly sure on his timeline, but he'll be back for the playoff run, which I'm almost certain the Lions will make it, so I'm not worried about that. If you add Trey Hendrickson on the opposite edge of Aiden Hutchinson, I don't care who's covering down the field. As long as they're able to play that classic press man coverage that the Lions want to play, that's going to take your aggression off that blitz button a little bit, allow you to just get home with a 4-man rush, and maybe even resort more players into coverage. And he's a great, well-rounded player. You can't really double Hutchinson all the time if Hendrickson on the other edge, right? He does make $25 million right now. They'll have to work something out from a contract negotiation standpoint. But Hendrickson is a pure rental, as I mentioned. And the Lions are in the rental business. At least they should be, right? And Muhammad's played well, but he's more of a rotation piece. He could be that third edge rusher. This team has needed a real dog on the opposite edge of Hutchinson for a while. And Trey Hendrickson, there's no better than that guy. I mean, he's another top 7, top 8 edge rusher in the NFL, capable of putting up 17.5 sacks in a season back-to-back years, which he did on a terrible Cincinnati team and defense. So take the swing, Detroit. Detroit makes sense because they're a healthy team, and really, what do they really truly need that could put them over the top? It's probably that one last pass rusher that can just totally dominate a game by sending 4. They're not going to win a Super Bowl going through the NFC beating Matthew Stafford, right? Beating the Eagles if they can't get any pressure on the quarterback. And then if they get to the Super Bowl, they're not going to beat Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or maybe even, hey, Drake May if they can't get pressure. I don't care how well your coverage performs. So Trey Hendrickson is that missing piece for the Lions' run this season. Make the move. Make the move. Okay, the next big name that hasn't already been traded, Jalen Phillips has been traded from the Dolphins to the Eagles. And I'm going to make a separate video about the Eagles because they've already made 3 trades near this trade deadline. But the next big name is Bradley Chubb. And I think if Hendrickson does get traded, we'll see kind of the pieces come into place. But Bradley Chubb to the Chiefs makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs need an edge rusher opposite George Karlaftis. And quite frankly, Karlaftis has kind of disappeared recently. In that game against the Bills, I hardly noticed him. Chris Jones is clearly not the same dominant gravitational pull player that he has been as recently as last year. It just feels like he isn't quite that same dominant self. He is getting a little older. Bradley Chubb would definitely boost one of the Chiefs' biggest weaknesses, which is the pass rush. They couldn't even touch Josh Allen in that game, and he's a well-rounded player. Bradley Chubb can defend the run. He actually, I think, had a sack or 2, if I'm not mistaken, against the Bills. Or it could have been the Ravens. But either way, he's looked pretty good recently. The thing is that Chubb was coming off an ACL injury in which he missed an entire season, and he has 4 sacks in 9 games, which isn't that bad, 25 tackles. He's 29 years old. He makes only $12 million this year. The problem with Chubb is going to be the long-term contract and how the Dolphins negotiate that in a potential trade, because he does make $31 million for 2026 and 2027. So he does feel like more of a rental where the team probably would choose to not bring him back or maybe restructure his contract or something the year following. He is 86th in PFF grade, but in 2023, he actually had a really good year. 11 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, which led the NFL. To me, a guy that still has that juice, still has that pop. What I've seen recently, he can still contribute, maybe not on every down, but he would be a main starter for the Chiefs. Like, for sure, be a guy that could be your number 2 edge rusher and your number 3 pass rusher for your team. I think that's a pretty good role for him at this stage in his career, and it would make a lot of sense for the Chiefs to make that move. He's always had the power to set the edge, and he's got the juice to get to the quarterback. So I like Bradley Chubb involved in Kansas City under Spags for a potential Super Bowl run. Also, they should know him pretty well because he did play in Denver for a while. Next, Arden Key is an underrated name at the defensive end position. I could see him landing with my Patriots. The Patriots do need depth on the edge. I think their starters, Harold Landry and Calebon Chason, have performed well, but Arden Key is a guy that's very familiar with Mike Vrabel, as Vrabel and his staff did sign him in the final season that Vrabel was there in 2023. In fact, in 2023, Mike Vrabel coached Arden Key to his best season of his career with 42 tackles, which was a career high, 6.5 sacks, which was a career high, 15 quarterback hits, all career highs. He is 29 years old. He has only 1 year left on his contract this season at $9 million. It's a pretty easy cap hit. The Patriots aren't even really worried about money. They have so much money, it's ridiculous. They could actually sign him or have the rights to sign him as he would be on their team this season for a postseason run, and then have the rights to bring him back as a third edge rusher. I think Key is ideal as a third edge rusher, and the thing I like about him is he's very quick, he's very bendy, and he actually is very similar to Landry and Chason. So they all have a similar skill set. So it's almost like interchangeability. So if Landry needed a rest on a down, you're not really losing much, in my opinion, from a pass rushing standpoint or an all-around standpoint. I think Landry might be the best run defender of the 3, but I feel like if Landry or Chason needed a rep, you could easily put Key in there, and it's not like you're missing much, which I feel like when the Patriots have to do that now, their edge depth is just not very good. Anthony Jennings doesn't really fit their system very well. Key is another LSU former edge rusher that is built kind of like Calebon Chason, wiry, right? Got that bendability, very good athletes on the edge, can run really well. These are all guys with great quickness, great bend. So, yeah, Arden Key fits ideally into this system. He's performed at a career high rate in this system, and the coach already knows him. He's undervalued, and like I said, I've always loved him for a while. I mean, I really liked him when he came out of the draft, and I think that he's a really good third rusher, and you could involve him in your sub packages as well. So Arden Key to the Patriots, it's a low-key move. Haha. That makes a lot of sense for New England, who doesn't really want to give up their future and their building of the roster. This is an affordable player. A team that might be willing to go after an older name or maybe mortgage their future for a Super Bowl is the Buffalo Bills. But I don't think they'll have to do that for this guy. That is Cameron Jordan of the New Orleans Saints. I actually think Cameron Jordan is a really good fit for the Bills' defensive line. Yes, he is older, and yes, he's past his prime, but he's a borderline Hall of Fame talent with great locker room presence that really, I think, helps the Bills in a key area of weakness, which is run defense. He is the 6th best edge rusher against the run, according to PFF this year, and he also provides versatility in the part where he can move inside and he can rush the quarterback on third downs and or in sub packages. They just lost Hoyt to a season-ending Achilles injury. Unfortunately, he looked really, really good for them, and I love that signing in the offseason when I broke it down. And then they lost Ed Oliver, at least until the playoffs, if not further. So Cameron Jordan is a player that could squeeze into that role, fulfilling both of those needs by being a big, long edge rusher that can set the edge on early downs and take some pressure off of Joey Bosa. You can then put Joey Bosa in on those sub-package passing downs and have him play on the edge while Cam Jordan slides inside, or just add him to the rotation of players, right? So Cam Jordan is just like a guy that I feel like fits the description of a player that the Bills would want to bring in. He's going to provide leadership. He's going to provide, just a steady, smart, high IQ player that can fit into their scheme. He can play multiple roles, and he's probably pretty hungry for a championship. It's maybe his last chance at going for one. So 2.5 sacks, 21 tackles this year. Don't expect a lot of sacks, but he is very calculated and just really good on like games, stunts, and getting other guys open in the pass rush. So Cameron Jordan would be my pick for the Bills here without getting too expensive or crazy. Moving to the interior, a player that could be had by the Bills or maybe a different team, I think this is a name that the Bills would look at, is Sebastian Joseph Day. My choice for him, I thought about the Bills, but I went with the Ravens. So Sebastian Joseph Day is a little bit more of a shorter, stouter interior defensive lineman, kind of built like Matabike for the Baltimore Ravens. They lost Matabike for the season, and they don't really have a replacement. Sebastian Joseph Day is a super underrated player. He actually had a spectacular game just this past week against the Chargers. He's 24th in PFF grade this year. He was ranked 23rd last year. So he is a more than serviceable starting defensive tackle. And the Titans defensive coordinator, Denard Wilson, also teaches the same system and scheme that the Ravens run. So I think he would be a nice fit to replace Matabike. Obviously not the same caliber of player, but it would give them a little bit more against the run and also a quickness against the pass to rush the quarterback. He has 2 sacks this year and 28 tackles in Tennessee. He's been across the NFL under the Rams, I believe winning the Super Bowl with them. He was with the Niners on a Super Bowl run, so he has plenty of experience. And he's been across the league. Tennessee, he's played really well. So Baltimore, I think this would be a savvy pickup without the Ravens having to go super over the top moving assets, since they're not even really confirmed to get to the playoffs yet. But this would be a move that would definitely help one of their biggest weaknesses, which has been run defense and interior pass rush. So Sebastian Joseph Day makes a lot of sense for the Ravens, in my opinion. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, you guys thought that I wouldn't talk about the San Francisco 49ers, huh? We're going to get to them in a second, but first I do want to bring up some alternatives that I did not list in this video because I just wasn't confident they would get traded. But Tavondre Sweat has been in the rumor mill. I guess it would be a meal if you were able to achieve them, and these guys like a meal. Tavondre Sweat likes a meal. He's a big man. But also Daron Payne, okay? The rumor mill suggests that Tavondre Sweat could be had that would be interesting because he's on a rookie contract, okay? So that would be interesting. He would immediately beef up a team like Buffalo or Baltimore in the interior of their defensive line, and I would love that move specifically for Baltimore. He just feels like a Baltimore Raven defensive tackle, nose tackle type. That feels very old school. He is 28th graded this season as the 28th best D tackle in football, and it would be a move for the Ravens where it wouldn't just help them now, but also potentially the next year or two, which would be a savvy move for a team that doesn't have the best record right now, right? So it makes sense for them. And then Daron Payne is one that I would really want the Bills to go after. Daron Payne is having one of the best seasons of his career. Daron Payne is 12th according to PFF defensive tackle grading. He's a free agent in the summer, so he would probably be a rental. But he's somebody that's played nose tackle, in a 3-4, and has also played in a 4-3. So he has schematical diversity. He's explosive enough to play both positions or both roles where he's head over the center or he's shade. And then also, he's got the quickness, the size. He can kind of play in any defense. And I think he would totally solve the Bills without Ed Oliver and also give them a massive human in the middle of their defense to help them against teams like the Ravens or the Patriots that just want to run the ball down their throat sometimes. So it would certainly solve one of their biggest issues, which is run defense and size on the defensive front. So I love how Payne is playing this year. I would love for the Bills to go after somebody like that, but he might be just a little bit too expensive. That being said, he's on the final year of his contract. He will be a free agent, and Washington said they are open to moving some players. That would be a guy on Washington I would target. Now, the San Francisco 49ers need multiple players on defense. They've lost Nick Bosa. They've lost Fred Warner. Now they've lost Mykel Williams. Yetur Gross-Matos is also a guy that should be back but is banged up right now. So they need a defensive lineman for sure. And there are a couple New York Jets that make a lot of sense for Robert Saleh for the now and for the future. And these are two names that I think I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners acquired one or both. The first name is going to be Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson is only 26 years old. He does have a club option leading into 2026. He's played 5 games this year, only has 1 sack and 19 tackles. But under Robert Saleh, before his injury, he had 7.5 sacks and was in the Pro Bowl. He was a Pro Bowler in 2023. And he's a guy that I really liked as a first-round pick coming out of the draft of FSU. He had bend, he had power, he kind of had all the traits that you look for an elite edge rusher, and he'd be somebody that I'd really look at for the 49ers, for a guy that might not be at his peak right now in terms of full health where he's recovering from the major injury he suffered, but maybe next year he could really be a really top-notch player on a kind of affordable contract, but then also you're taking that risk that you took with Bryce Huff, where maybe he's been poorly utilized in a different system. He fits the Robert Saleh system better. Huff has really achieved what we kind of thought he could. When he was signed to the Eagles, was in the wrong system, went to the Niners, looks really good, right? Jermaine Johnson could be a guy that's 26 years old, could help them right now in one of their areas of deficiency, but could also maybe be a guy that could help the team long term. So that makes more sense to me for the 49ers than a guy like Hendrickson, where basically with Hendrickson, you're replacing Nick Bosa. But what if next year the 49ers had an edge rotation of Nick Bosa, Jermaine Johnson, Bryce Huff, and Mykel Williams? That would be pretty stellar, and you're almost talking about the Niners could be a Super Bowl team next year rather than this year, but this move would still help them right now. But you don't even really have to, if next year you don't really want him or it doesn't work out, you can just release him to free agency. You could do that too, so it works both ways that way. And then Quincy Williams would be the one that I would be all over if I were the 49ers. Quincy Williams is the ideal Robert Saleh 49er linebacker, and I know that Bethune has played pretty admirably, and D. Winters has shown some good flash. But Quincy Williams is, to me, like Dre Greenlaw, 2.0. Quincy Williams is a stellar player. He was an all-pro first team in 2023 under Robert Saleh. So, again, Jermaine Johnson was a Pro Bowler under Robert Saleh, and Quincy Williams was a all-pro under Robert Saleh. Quincy Williams is one of the fastest, rangiest linebackers in football. He's only played 4 games this year due to injury. He has 1.5 sacks and 22 tackles. He is 29 years old. He is a free agent this summer. This is a new regime with the Jets. he doesn't quite fit the style of linebacker that defense looks for. He's a little bit undersized from the standpoint of weight, I would say, but he's incredibly rangy. He is violent. He can cover. He's a great athlete. He is a lot like Dre Greenlaw. So I would look at Quincy Williams for the 49ers. He would be able to replace, to me, I think he would be able to replace most of Fred Warner this year, and then potentially to get him signed for next year to stay under Robert Saleh would be pretty spectacular to have Quincy Williams and Fred Warner. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, but that would be pretty sick. Okay. So, and he's also played both positions. He's played the will position, or he's played that kind of hit and run linebacker role, and he's also played middle linebacker. So he's played both positions, which makes him versatile as well. So that would be the one I'd really be after if I were the Niners, but both of these trades from the Jets would make a ton of sense. They might not get both, but at least one would be really nice for San Francisco. Dallas also needs some defensive help. As we know, they might have the worst defense in football. Cincinnati has an argument, but here's the thing about Cincinnati. They have players that want to get traded, and one of them's Logan Wilson. Logan Wilson to Dallas makes a lot of sense. Matt Eberflus, as a defensive coordinator, covets linebackers. Remember when he was the head coach of the Bears? They went out and the first thing they did was they signed Tremaine Edmonds and they signed TJ Edwards to massive contracts, right? So Logan Wilson is a linebacker with high levels of IQ. He's also played at a very high Pro Bowl caliber level in the past. This year, he's asked for a trade from Cincinnati. He's still played relatively solid. I mean, he's the 58th graded linebacker this year, actually third best in pass rush grade. Considering how poor the Bengals defense has been around him, that's not half bad. He makes $8 to $9 million, somewhere in that range, for the next 3 years, including this year. He's 29 years old, so he is getting to the end of his, prime, but he's a guy that's played a ton of snaps, a high percentage of them. 97, 98, and 99% of snaps for Cincinnati in 2022 through 2024. He was the best linebacker, or one of the top players on that defense for Cincinnati in their Super Bowl run in 2021, if you recall. And he also has started 7 games this year with 46 tackles and 4 passes defense. Wilson would provide that IQ and also enough range to go sideline to sideline to fulfill Matt Eberflus's linebacker position. I feel like Eberflus is really struggling defensively, most importantly because the linebackers on Dallas are just not good enough. They will get Overshown back, but I still think they need another guy. Logan Wilson could be that guy. Another move that Dallas could make is for a safety. They've given up way too many big plays this year, and Minkah Fitzpatrick could help solve that. Fitzpatrick is in the rumor mill as well. He's somebody that could be traded after being traded from Pittsburgh back to Miami this offseason. He could be on the move to Dallas. The Dolphins are fully open that they could trade him. I actually thought about the Patriots here as a potential move for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I also thought about the Bills, but Dallas to me makes sense. He only has a $4 million cap hit. Jerry Jones has expressed he wants to be aggressive in helping this defense and help the offense through the defense at the deadline. And he's 28 years old. He's a former All-Pro, first-team All-Pro interception leader in the NFL. He's played 9 games this year for Miami with 5 passes defense, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, not forced fumble, but fumble recovery, and 50 tackles. He's also graded much higher than I would have thought because, Miami is considering trading him, but he is the number 10 safety according to PFF this year, 12th in coverage grade, 19th in run defense grade. Minkah's had great seasons in the NFL as a roaming free safety. And in Dallas, I think he would fulfill that role really well, being able to cover the deep range of the field. Specifically, Matt Eberflus loves to play cover 3. That's a post safety, a solo deep safety that roams the middle of the field. I think he would solve a lot of the issues that Dallas has by just not giving up big explosive plays constantly. So that would be, I think, a big move for Dallas to make. That would really help their defense, at least in terms of stopping those big passing plays down the field. So I like that move for Dallas. Another Bengal that can be had on the trade block right now is Cam Taylor-Britt. I think Indianapolis, this is a low-key move for the Colts that they could make. The Colts are not aggressive as a franchise or a front office. They typically don't make a lot of moves, which is why I only really have them making one kind of minor move here. The question will be, how aggressive are they? How much do they believe in this offense and Daniel Jones? And how much do they want to go all in? I'll be very intrigued by the Colts. Are they a team that calls for Trey Hendrickson? Are they a team that makes a move for a pass rusher? But I do think Cam Taylor-Britt makes sense from a depth perspective. This is a team that's had injuries at corner throughout the season, and Cam Taylor-Britt has played really well for Lou Anarumo in the past. He's also young. He's 26 years old. He's still on his rookie deal. This is the final year of his rookie deal. He's only started 2 games for Cincinnati this year, but in past seasons, he's had 4 interceptions in 2023, 3 interceptions in 2024, 11 and 16 passes defense. As recently as last year, he had 16 passes defense. So he's certainly a guy that has great ball skills, can get his hands on the ball, and in a zone-heavy scheme that values length, physicality, Cam Taylor-Britt can't really run that great, but this is a secondary that has a lot of these type of guys that aren't like super fast, but they're good in zone, and they can play a little bit of press, and that's similar to Charvarius Ward, who's dealt with injuries. I think Cam Taylor-Britt would be a good little depth piece, a 4th or 3rd corner for this team on the perimeter, probably their 3rd perimeter corner, but a guy that if Charvarius has continued injuries, he could slot in there, knows the defense, could play it well and play it sound, and can make some turnovers for this team that kind of needs a turnover magnet, right? This is a team that wants to win through their offense, scoring points. Well, turnovers also help that. So Cam Taylor-Britt, I think, fits the mold for that team. Another corner that can be had is Rasul Douglas. To me, the Packers make the most sense. I'm not sure if they'll make this move or not. I haven't heard any rumors regarding Rasul back to Green Bay, but to me, it makes almost too much sense. He has started 7 games for Miami this year, and he's actually played extremely well. He has 36 tackles, 5 passes defense, and 1 sack. Maybe the Bills would even look to call, but I think the Bills actually have had some really good corner play this year. But, Rasul Douglas going back to one of his former teams does make a lot of sense. He's actually played really well. Again, like 88 passer rating allowed, a 59% completion percentage. Even just watching him in Miami, I like how he is playing the football. I like how he's breaking on the ball. Like he looks back in his kind of like prime form of a couple years ago. And he does add size to Green Bay, which desperately needs some size on the perimeter. He's 6'2". He's got some pretty good length to him, and he is very good in zone coverage. Again, another guy that doesn't run great, but when you're in a lot of zone and the Packers want to play a lot of zone and they want to be able to rush 4. And Rasul Douglas would help solve a size issue, an IQ issue at the corner position. He's very smart there, and he has had some ball skills and playmaking ability in the past. He played in Green Bay from 2021 through 2023. He would obviously be a 1-year rental, and he's extremely cheap, so there is no excuse for a lot of money here. He's on like a $1 million deal. He was literally signed as like an August free agent or something like that, maybe even in September. So he's been one of those surprise players that could be had right now with the form that he's in. And then another move that I think Green Bay should really think about, they went all in for Micah Parsons. They just lost a big-time playmaker in Tucker Kraft. If David Njoku is available, they should make this move. I think that Njoku and Kraft actually have some very key similarities. Both are very fast. Both are great after the catch. Both are very good on screens. Both can block and can receive. And Njoku is in the final year of his deal, making $11 million. He would be a rental for the rest of the season for a team in the Packers that's trying to pursue a championship. He's 29 years old, and the Cleveland Browns have Harold Fannin, who is very similar to David Njoku. And given where the Browns are at, they're probably looking to acquire more draft capital for a potential quarterback move or just to replenish this roster. Njoku's getting a little bit long in the tooth, and a team like Green Bay would definitely benefit from a player like this who's been a top 10 tight end in the NFL, who can block, who's a great athlete, who can, be great in the screen game. He's not going to be quite Tucker Kraft, but he definitely gives them more than Musgrave. He gives them more well-roundedness. He gives them just a more veteran player and another option in the passing game with a team that's had a lot of injuries in that department this year. So I'd really like David Njoku to Green Bay. I think it makes a lot of sense for Matt LaFleur's offense. There are some crossover appeal there with Kevin Stefanski, but 27 catches, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns this year. Hasn't been his best season so far, but a lot of that has come down to he's splitting a lot of time with Fannin, and he's dealt with some injuries. But you lost Tucker Kraft. You need to kind of replenish that a little bit. and keep your window open, I think David Njoku helps you do that. Now let's move to the offensive line front. There's a couple moves that could be made here. Andrew Wiley is a tackle / guard that's available, and the team that makes the most sense to make an offensive line move is the Chargers. This is basically just need alone. I don't really have like a reason the Chargers would make this other than, of course, they lost their left tackle yesterday. They lost their guy, Joe Alt. They lost Rashawn Slater. So they've lost both their tackles for the season. If the Chargers want to keep their playoff window alive and not sacrifice this season, Andrew Wiley is a guy that has a ton of experience. I think he started over 90 games in the NFL. He's played for Super Bowl championship teams like the Chiefs. He started in the NFL at right guard, left guard, and right tackle. So he has a lot of versatility. He can fit in at guard or tackle wherever the Chargers want him to play. He started 4 games for Washington this year, and Washington is looking to probably get some draft capital because they have so little of it with all the trades they've made. They lost 8 draft picks trading for Lattimore, Debo, and Tunzel. He's only he's 31. He's a little bit older, but this is a rental deal. This is a rental move. You're trying to keep Herbert alive. So Andrew Wiley would make a lot of sense for the Chargers. He could be a play, slot him in. He could play right away. Kevin Zeitler to the Seattle Seahawks, I think would be a big move for the Seahawks to make. Their right guard position is easily the worst position in terms of starting on their team, arguably. And Kevin Zeitler does have familiarity with Mike McDonald specifically, where they crossovered in Baltimore. So they should know each other from a personality standpoint. Obviously, McDonald's a defensive coach. Zeitler is an offensive lineman. But there should be some respect there at least. So Zeitler slotting in at the right guard might not be the true zone scheme right guard type guy. He's more of a duo power scheme throughout most of his career. But I feel like Zeitler can kind of do anything. And he's probably the best right guard available. He's on a 1-year deal. He was the 27th graded guard so far this season. I believe he was top 5 last season on the Ravens. Or not on the Ravens. On the Lions, and then previously on the Ravens, he was a Pro Bowler the year before that. So he's been playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level for like 3 years in a row. He's 35 years old. So he's probably looking to move on from the Titans, who are a terrible team, a terrible franchise. He's on a 1-year deal. He only went there for the money, probably. I mean, let's be fair. So he probably would look to get moved to Seattle, a team that has a chance for a playoff run. And if the Seahawks are really serious about opening up this run game, Kevin Zeitler's a guy that can do that on the right side of their line. So I think this makes a lot of sense for a variety of reasons. We're going to finish this off with 2 receiver moves that make sense. Jakobi Meyers to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd love him to come back to New England. I really like Jakobi Meyers. I think he's a great guy. I also think he's a very underrated player. And he's the type of receiver that I think you want in a playoff run. He can separate in the middle of the field and make a lot of difficult catches for you, but he's also versatile enough to play inside or outside. And I think he is the best at the slot position. He's 28 years old, and I think he'd be a perfect complement to DK Metcalf. He's a good blocker. He's a physical player. He can take contact over the middle. He's got great hands. And he's a very good route runner, and he can separate. So I think he can do a lot of the things that DK can't do. So that's a perfect complement to DK in that way. And he also gives you more size, which Arthur Smith seems to covet. He's 6'2". He's actually kind of underrated in that regard. And he is kind of like a light version of Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers, of course, has a lot of experience with Devontae Adams. Jakobi Meyers has that inside-outside versatility, that route running chops, the back shoulder ability, the jump ball ability, kind of like a light Devontae Adams. 33 receptions, 352 yards. This year. Last year, he had 87 catches, 1,027 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's been asked, can I get traded the entire season? So, and Jacoby's a really good guy to fit in your locker room. You wouldn't even have to worry about that. He's a great character guy. And I think he would have instant rapport with Aaron Rodgers. And he would at least give the Pittsburgh Steelers like another credible weapon that defenses have to fear. And a guy that on 3rd down could actually move the chains. They kind of don't really have that guy right now. Metcalf really isn't that kind of guy. He's more of the explosive element. They need a chain mover, and I think Meyers would be that perfect guy. He's on a 14.9 cap hit right now. It's not even that bad. I mean, that's really affordable for a good number 2 receiver. So Jakobi Meyers would be a perfect fit to me with the Steelers. I'd love him back in New England, but I think it makes more sense for the Steelers. They've also been looking for a receiver for a long time. Brandon Ayuk comes to mind for me. And then the final move in this video will be Rashid Shaheed to the Denver Broncos, which I spelt Rashid Shaheed's name wrong here. It's an I, not 2 E's. But regardless, Rashid Shaheed to the Denver Broncos makes a lot of sense. He has 44 receptions, 499 yards, and 2 touchdowns this year. Rashid Shaheed, according to PFF, has been graded at a wide receiver 2 level for 3 consecutive seasons, 53rd, 54th, and 57th, 3 years in a row. He's one of the most electric receivers in football. He's got brilliant speed. I think his chops to be able to start are top notch, and he does have a connection to the Broncos. You would think it'd be Sean Payton, right? It's actually not Sean Payton, although Sean Payton was the coach of the Saints. It's actually Cody Roger, who now serves as Denver's vice president of player personnel. He drafted Rashid Shaheed. So, and you look at Denver, they have been constantly after these speedy receivers, right? You look at Marvin Mims, who was drafted by Sean Payton, Franklin, who was drafted by Sean Payton. And Denver's missing piece isn't on defense, it's on offense. They need another playmaker. And you can do a lot of cool things with Shaheed. He can take handoffs, he can return punts, he can fly down the field. Like, maybe the Broncos would be more interested in a Jacoby Myers type, but that would be an in-division trade. Like, maybe they're more interested in a Jawan Jennings, like a big receiver that can work the middle of the field. But I think that you can never get enough speed. You can never get enough. And to me, he's a better route runner. He's actually a much more well-rounded receiver than given credit for. Like, he's a much better player than Marvin Mims or Franklin, in my opinion. Like, not even close. So I'd love this move for the Broncos. He's also in his final year of his contract, so he's looking to get paid, and it'd probably be like a 3rd or 4th round pick that he goes for. But I think the Broncos, where they're at 7-2, they get one more playmaker in there for Bo Nix, really unlock this offense, make defenses really fear their speed down the field and their vertical dimension. That would open up the run game even more with an elite defense. Who knows? The Broncos could go far in the playoffs. So Rashid Shaheed is my final move to the Broncos. There it is, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my trade deadline predictions. Most of these won't come true, but I wanted to throw them out there for you guys to have fun with. Let me know in the comments which ones do you like most. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, jabroni, and we'll see you soon. I'll be covering the trade deadline on Bleacher Report live on Tuesday, the Bleacher Report YouTube channel. I'll also be doing a recap, of course, on the Bottom Line View here. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Peace.